I moved into a cheap apartment because it was all I could afford. But at exactly 3:07 every night, something started scratching under my bed. Then I got a text from an unknown number that said, "Don't look under the bed." Seconds later, another message came in. A whisper from below me said, "He's on the bed." I didn't move into that apartment because I loved it. I moved in because it was the only place I could afford. It sat on the third floor of a narrow brick building, squeezed between a laundromat and a liquor store. The kind of place you don't notice unless you have to. The hallway smelled like old carpet, damp plaster, and something faintly metallic underneath it all. The light outside my door flickered constantly, buzzing so loud at night it sounded like an insect trapped in the ceiling. When I signed the lease, the landlord barely looked at me. He was a heavy-set man with nicotine fingers and a smile that never seemed to reach his eyes. While he counted my deposit, he mentioned, almost casually, that the previous tenant had left kind of suddenly. Then he laughed. Not a real laugh. Just a short little sound, like he wanted me to let it go. I remember smiling back and saying something stupid like, "Well, I guess that means I got lucky." He slid the keys across the desk and said, "Yeah, lucky." At the time, I told myself I was imagining the way he looked at the bedroom door when he said it. The apartment itself was miserable, but manageable. Stained ceiling, windows that whistled in the wind, a bedroom barely big enough for a full-size mattress and 2 boxes. Still, it was mine. And when you've been sleeping on friends' couches for 2 months, mine is enough. That first night, I was too tired to think. I dragged the mattress onto the frame, threw a sheet over it, plugged in a lamp, and left half my boxers unpacked. I ate cold takeout sitting on the floor, scrolled on my phone until my eyes blurred, and passed out sometime after midnight. Then I woke up. No reason, no dream, just awake. I turned my head and saw the alarm clock glowing red on the milk crate beside my bed. 3:07 a.m., and then I heard it. Scratch. A pause. Scratch, scratch. At first, I thought it was in the walls. Old buildings always make noise. Pipes knock, wood shifts. Mice find their way into places they shouldn't, but this wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from directly under my bed. I lay still, listening, trying to convince myself it was a rat, maybe something trapped in the floorboards. The scratching was slow and careful, almost polite, not random, not frantic, deliberate, like someone feeling their way through the dark with their fingernails. I reached for the lamp and turned it on. The scratching stopped instantly, not faded, not slowed, stopped. The silence that followed was so sudden it made the room feel smaller. I sat up and stared at the side of the mattress for a full 10 seconds before forcing myself to lean over and look underneath. There was nothing there, just dust, a flattened bottle cap, one of my unopened boxes, darkness. I even got down on one knee to look deeper, expecting to see glowing eyes or a nest or something alive tucked in the far corner. Nothing. I laughed, but it came out thin and shaky. "Great," I said to the empty room. "I'm losing it already." Then I turned the lamp off and somehow went back to sleep. The next morning, it felt ridiculous. In daylight, the apartment was just ugly again. The bedroom looked too small and ordinary to hold anything frightening. I went to work, came back late, microwaved noodles, and told myself if I heard it again, I'd record it. That made me feel better, rational, in control. The second night, I awoke before the scratching started. I don't know why. It felt like my body knew before my mind did. When I opened my eyes, the room was dark and still, and the first thing I saw was the clock. 3:07 a.m. A second later, scratch, scratch, scratch. Same sound, same place. Under the bed, only this time, it sounded closer, sharper, less like claws on wood and more like dry nails dragged slowly across the floor. I didn't turn on the light. I just lay there, completely still, listening to it travel from one side of the bed to the other. Scratch, pause, scratch, scratch. It stopped right beneath my chest. I held my breath, and then I heard something that made every muscle in my body lock. Breathing, slow, wet, human. Not from across the room, not from outside my door, from directly under me. There's a kind of fear that doesn't feel dramatic. It doesn't make you scream or jump. It makes you cold. It turns your bones to glass. It tells your body that if you move even an inch, something terrible will happen. That was what I felt. The breathing continued in long, uneven pulls, like whoever or whatever was under there had been holding its breath for a very long time. Once, the mattress gave the slightest creak beneath me, as if something had pressed a hand up against the slats. I bit down on my knuckle to stop from making a sound. I stayed frozen until pale morning light finally leaked around the curtains. When I checked under the bed, there was still nothing there. But on the floorboards beneath the frame, there were 4 long scratch marks cut into the wood, deep enough that I could feel them with my fingertips. I stared at them for a long time. I knew they hadn't been there before. I spent that whole day trying to make sense of it. Maybe I'd made them dragging the frame into place. Maybe they were old and I just hadn't noticed. Maybe sleep paralysis could do weird things to memory. I looked up auditory hallucinations from stress on my phone 3 times. I almost called my sister, but what was I supposed to say? Hey, I think something is breathing under my bed every night. So I said nothing. But that evening, I stopped at a hardware store and bought a brighter lamp, a cheap flashlight, and a kitchen knife I didn't need. By the 3rd night, I dreaded going home. I checked the locks twice. I looked behind the shower curtain, inside every closet, under the sink. I got down on my hands and knees and shined the flashlight beneath the bed before I even sat down. Nothing. Still nothing. That was somehow the worst part. I left every light in the apartment on. The bedroom lamp, the kitchen light, even the bathroom. The apartment glowed with this sickly yellow brightness that pushed all the shadows into corners, but never got rid of them. I sat on the bed with the knife beside me and my phone in my hand, determined not to sleep. At 3:06, the apartment was silent. At 3:07, the bedroom light flickered once. Then the scratching started. Not slow this time, fast, excited. Scratch, 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 scratch. It came from under the bed so violently that the frame itself trembled. I jerked backward, pressing myself against the headboard. The knife slipped from my hand and clattered onto the mattress. Then, just as suddenly, the scratching stopped. The silence after it was even worse. And from beneath the bed, in a whisper so quiet I almost thought I imagined it, a voice said, "He can hear you." I stopped breathing. It was a woman's voice. Thin, hoarse, trembling, very close. Every hair on my arms lifted. My mind scrambled for some explanation. Someone playing a prank, a homeless woman in the crawl space, a dream, a psychotic break, but none of it fit. There was no crawl space. I lived alone. I had checked under the bed. My phone buzzed in my hand so hard I nearly threw it. Unknown number. One new message. Don't look under the bed. I stared at the screen, my vision swimming. A second message appeared almost immediately. It's not safe yet. My mouth had gone completely dry. I typed with numb fingers. Who is this? Before I could hit send, another message came through. I'm hiding there. I felt something inside me tilt. I looked at the bed frame, then at the space under it, then back to my phone. Nothing made sense. The whisper came again, this time shaking with panic. He's on the bed. For one horrible second, I didn't understand. Then I felt it. The slightest shift in the mattress behind me, not under me. Behind me, a depression, slow and careful, as if weight had just settled onto the bed. My entire body went rigid. I hadn't heard anything climb up. No footsteps. No movement. And yet the mattress dipped again, deeper this time, enough that I felt my body tilt backward by less than an inch. Something was on the bed with me. I wanted to turn around. Every instinct screamed at me to turn and fight and run. But another instinct, older, more animal, told me if I looked, I would die. So I stayed facing forward, eyes wide, tears already gathering, trying to listen past the blood pounding in my ears. There was breathing now, not below the bed anymore, right behind me, slow, patient. I looked down at my phone, still glowing in my hand. My reflection in the black part of the screen was warped by shaking. Then I noticed movement under the blanket near my feet. At first, it was subtle. A ripple, small enough that I almost convinced myself it was my legs shaking. Then the blanket arose, just a little, and began moving upward. Something was under it, not inside the bed, not beneath the mattress, under the blanket, crawling toward me. I made a sound then, small and broken, not even close to a scream. The shape moved slowly, deliberately, lifting the fabric as it passed over my shins. My legs were trapped under the blanket, but I couldn't feel hands, couldn't feel weight, only that awful rising shape inching closer to my knees. Behind me, the thing on the bed leaned forward. I felt a strand of wet hair brush the back of my neck. I went so cold, I thought I might black out. My phone buzzed one last time. I looked down because I couldn't do anything else. Final message: if you're reading this, I think it found you too. The bulge under the blanket stopped at my knees. The thing behind me inhaled slowly, like it was smelling me. And from under the bed, from somewhere impossibly deep in the dark beneath the frame, the woman whispered one final time, "I'm sorry." Then the bedroom light went out, not flickered, not dimmed. Gone. The entire apartment dropped into blackness so complete, it felt solid. I heard the sound of fingers dragging softly across the sheet behind me. Then a second sound from under the blanket, something opening its mouth. I finally tried to move, and from both above and below me, at the exact same time, something whispered into the dark. "Don't." I don't remember screaming. I don't remember what happened next. What I do remember is this. When morning came, I was on the floor in the hallway outside my apartment, barefoot, curled against the wall, my phone dead in my hand. My bedroom door was wide open. The landlord was standing over me asking if I had taken something. I pushed past him and ran inside. The bed was exactly where I'd left it. The lamp was on again. The knife was gone. And on the wooden floor beneath the bed, carved deep enough to split the boards, were 7 words. "He heard you when you woke up." I moved out that same day. I didn't pack everything. I didn't even go back for most of my clothes. For weeks after, I barely slept. Every night I woke up certain I could hear scratching somewhere nearby, inside the walls, under the floor, beneath my own mattress. I changed my number, but sometimes I still get phantom vibrations in the middle of the night. I still wake up at exactly 3:07 and stare into the dark, waiting for my phone to light up. It hasn't, not yet. But 2 nights ago, in my new apartment, I was lying in bed half asleep when I heard a sound from below me. Slow, careful, deliberate, scratch, pause, scratch, scratch. And then, from somewhere under the bed, a woman's voice whispered, "He remembers you."